Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Produce Moms Podcast. My name is Lori Taylor. I'm the founder of the Produce Moms. I'm the host of this show. I'm abundantly blessed to do all of these things because I get to talk to the most amazing people. And I'm glad you're here. You're a listener of the show. You're the reason why we do this. And today's show, we're bringing someone whose family has created a product that I'm certain you're going to be familiar with this brand. And it's a product line that I sold when I was working in wholesale distribution. It's a product line that I buy all the time now in my home and have really since I was grocery shopping on my own. So with that, we are welcoming Natalie Mariani Kling. She is fourth generation. She's leading the marketing. She's serving as a nutritionist. Her family company is Mariani. They are dried fruits and they're all over the grocery store, not just the produce department. Natalie, we are so glad you're here. Welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself.
Lori, thank you. That was such a nice introduction. I'm so happy to be here. So yes, you said it right. Natalie Mariani Kling, fourth generation, very fortunate to be a part of this organization and have the opportunity to share kind of our vision and what we hope for, the impact we can make going forward in the areas of produce and whole foods and nutrition.
Oh, yes. And, you and I had a great conversation pre-show. You are well positioned with what your company and your family business has to offer in the world of nutrition, convenience, fruits and vegetables. Tell us a little bit more about the Mariani brand.
Sure. So it started in the early 1900s. So my great-grandfather came over from Croatia and he landed in New York City and worked in a coconut factory for $1 a day. And his whole purpose was to gain enough money to be able to travel across the country and follow his sweetheart and her family who had traveled all the way across to California. And so he did, and he took the train over and started working on their family's farm, which is over in Cupertino, San Jose area, which used to be all orchards and now is Silicon Valley as we know it. And so he worked there. He earned enough money to make a down payment on his own orchard, his own ranch, and he started Mariani Dried Fruit. And then he had 4 children. His son and his daughter ran the company for many years. They took it global. And they had children, which my dad was one of, and my cousin George Sr. They've been running the company for over 40 years. And now it's their children, which is us, which is fourth generation. Wow. My cousin George is our president. And then the rest of us have, different roles across the company. And yeah, here we are.
Here we are indeed. What an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess I didn't realize that you guys were established right in the heart of what has become famous for Silicon Valley, but my goodness, your family brand, I don't need to tell you this, is, it's a legendary brand within the fruit and vegetable industry and really grocery industry as a whole. It's very difficult for anyone listening who's not familiar with grocery retail operations. It's extremely difficult to get your products on shelf at the capacity that the Mariani product line is. Because Natalie, your products appear, I was telling you before in our conversations, I buy them often like in the dried fruit section that's near the cereals, but you most definitely also have that shelf space in the produce department.
Yeah, that's been really important to us because our goal is to have a product that is as close to fresh produce as you can get it, but also making it shelf stable. So people can have it, on the go. It's convenient nutrition, but also in these days, to have as a resource for, if who knows what's going to happen in the world, and so to have that little, the good nutrition that you can depend on and that you have at home that can stay, you don't need to be buying it really often, is important to us. So that produce section, 90% of the people, as walk through the produce department. And I'm so glad they do, because that's where they get the opportunity and the accessibility to real food and real nutrition. So we're fortunate to be able to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about your company vision here in just a moment, but it's a perfect time to call it out in the conversation. Inspire healthy living. And you all do that day in and day out in your operation. And one really cool thing that you announced really at the top of this year was your partnership with Treasure 8. And for anyone that's a loyal listener of that show, of this show, that name, Treasure 8, might ring a bell, because episode 139, scroll way back in those archives, folks, episode 139, we welcomed Dirk from the Treasure 8 leadership team. And, he talked about this incredible partnership that they have drummed up with the team at Mariani. And Natalie, I'd love to get your perspective on this partnership and why it's so important to you and your family and everyone at your family business.
Sure. Well, Treasure 8 has been a very synchronistic and exciting partnership. And what's funny, the way it happened was right as we had, so what happened is last year, as a fourth generation, we sat down and we realized that, things were shifting and that it was going to be the success or failure of our company was going to be on our watch. And so we started talking about, well, what does that mean to us? Who are we really as a company? Who are we really as a family? How do we want to grow? And what kind of impact do we want to make on the world? And it was pretty simple. We are a family. We love and respect each other. We work together. We've grown dried fruit all these years. We've all grown up in it. It's in our blood, and we believe in living healthy. And we happen to have a product that can deliver true health with real nutrients to our consumer. And so we wanted to be able to take that and run with it. And within months of us having these conversations, we met Treasure 8. And I was invited by someone on our team to attend a meeting over on Treasure Island, which is where their facilities were at the time. And I listened to their vision of deploying nutrition to humanity and their commitment to improving the food chain and supporting mothers and babies with nutrition. And I went to the bathroom. We had a break. And I cried because I knew that the combination of their technology and our ability to commercialize it was just this huge once in a lifetime opportunity to really impact the world. And it was overwhelming.
Yeah. It's a magic moment it's a magic, marriage, so to say, of two forces that can just have a tremendous impact on the world, on a critical issue that affects every single community across the globe. So, it's great. So tell us a little bit more about it. Like, let's remind folks what exactly the partnership even looks like. So you guys you are the leaders in dried fruit, and tell us a little bit more about how Treasure 8 is, why do you need them? Why is this partnership empowering such good?
Yeah, well, they came up with a technology that is really, and we lovingly call it the circle of life. It preserves the cellular integrity of food, which means that it locks in the nutrients, the flavor, the texture, the color, so that you don't have to use the preservatives. You don't have to use artificial sweeteners. And it makes it shelf stable in a way that it really takes it to the next level. So in addition to that, the circle of life, what that does is with that same technology, they can take food waste. So for example, in our case, we make prunes, so the prune pits, or we make mangoes, the mango pits, the mango skins, and they can turn it into a nutrient dense ingredient, which can then be applied to other foods. So you can make these kind of superfood products, or they can also be turned into dried streams, and those dried streams can power machinery. Or they can turn it into biochar, which is essentially a microbiome, nutrient-dense charcoal substance that you can put at the roots of plants. And therefore, when you water the plants, that charcoal holds in the water, so you're conserving water. You don't have to use much. And also all those nutrients and microbes feed the plant, so you get more nutrient-dense produce. And so then it starts to cycle all over again. So that technology, and then what's so funny, Lori, is when I came back to Mariani in the fall of last year, and I had been reflecting on this company that I was so proud to be a part of. And, my family had been building it for over 100 years. And I realized that what that meant was that we had created relationships around the world, really meaningful, lasting relationships, 30-year relationships with Kellogg's, and personal relationships with growers all over the world. And we have this national distribution. So it was like a lock and key when you could combine that technology with our ability to commercialize it, but also through meaningful relationships around the world.
Like your infrastructure empowers this, and that infrastructure is far beyond just your plants and your offices. It's deep, like you said. It's the relationships.
Yeah, that has been when, I've been doing all these interviews internally of the people who have been here for 30 and 40 years and more, and their groundedness, their commitment to respect, their commitment to relationships, it makes me so proud, because it's a family that, our family has built this over time because they've prioritized respect and integrity and relationships. And now we're in this position to be able to partner with someone so incredible as Treasure 8, people who are equally now as committed to changing the world. Right. And we get to be a part of that, which is so just awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and definitely the forces are aligned here for good. So I think it goes without saying how this is going to help consumers, help communities, have a positive global impact and footprint. But anything that you would like to share on, as you put on your consumer hat, Natalie, why does this matter? Why is this partnership important for households, moms like me, nutritionists like you? Like, how is that important?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, as part of my nutrition background, which is actually really, I'd love to share that story with you, how that came to be, because it's so personal. So when my son was born 14 years ago, I remember he was laying on the changing table, and I just had this instinct that something wasn't right. And there was this pit in my stomach, and I realized that, the doctors weren't seeing it. Nobody was seeing it. The tests came out okay, but I just knew. And so I thought to myself, how am I going to support this baby? What can I do? And I knew that the only way that I could interact with his brain and his cells and his organs and his tissues was through the food that I gave him, because that food would intimately and directly connect to all those pieces of his body. Yep. So I set out researching what are humans designed to eat? And I was flabbergasted at the contrast of opinions by experts, right? You had nutritionists and dietitians and authors and doctors all giving different advice. And I was astounded, and I thought that this cannot be. How are we the only species on the planet that has to ask experts what to eat? What have we lost? What information have we lost? So Then I started looking at people living around the world who did not have the diseases that we were dying from in the US. And then how were people using foods to reverse disease? And so all of this led to becoming a nutritionist, specializing in cleansing, and then working with kids who had these neurological issues. And coming back to your question, what I realized through that is how huge plant-based nutrients and whole foods, what kind of a difference they make in people's lives. And I've seen these kids where their behaviors, they have neurological things going on. So everything from my son who has this genetic syndrome which going back to that story, he was diagnosed 9 years after that moment that I had with him on the changing table. He was diagnosed with a really rare genetic syndrome that there's like 100 people in the world diagnosed with it. And so they didn't know anything about it. And so, that nutrition piece became even more important to me because, again, it was just the only thing I had control of. And so working with these kids, you see behaviors reverse. You see them being able to focus. You see their parents being able to interact with them in a way that's more meaningful and connected. And there's a calm that the right foods, when kids aren't eating processed foods, when they're not eating sugars, when they're not eating dyes, when they're not eating preservatives, their moods change, their behaviors change, their physical capacities change. And that became such a revealing thing for me to experience that I am just like a lifelong advocate now for plant-based foods and nutrition-dense foods. And so what I would say is why should consumers care about any of this? Because food is, I would argue that food is the most accessible way that we can create health and reverse symptoms that we have available to us. Mm-hmm. And even though we say, healthy eating can be more expensive, it also doesn't have to be. There are ways, that we can, that you are talking about, a lot of people are talking about, and we have a responsibility. And this is why we want to partner with Treasure 8 too, to make it even more financially accessible to eat healthy. And it has to be our investment. I really think it is our insurance policy. So to have this opportunity for us who happen to have a plant-based product, a whole foods product, and then partner with Treasure 8 to make even more nutrient-dense foods that can sit in your pantry, that you can take with you wherever you go, that can be deployed for needs that are way beyond the grocery store. I think that I hope that consumers understand, and moms and people and busy people, that they understand that it's available for them. Right. And hopefully we can be doing our part to make it even better.
Absolutely. And that is a great segue to your corporate vision of let's inspire healthy living. It's obviously a personal passion of yours, but your company has rallied around this concept. And how are you carrying out this vision? I mean, you're so passionate about it, Natalie. I imagine you're a huge catalyst for this vision within your corporate structure too.
Well, I can't help it.
Right. No, I mean, I love it.
I'm putting my nose all over the place within our organization. So, but yeah, I think that, our family, what I did a year ago when we were looking at our vision, is I took our family WhatsApp conversations and photographs, and I printed out all the pictures, and I talked to my cousins, and I tried to understand, like, what life do we live? How are we walking the walk? And are we? Because there is no value to our company if we're not authentically living it. Every single person personally, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I saw in those photographs and in these conversations was we all really value family, and we all really value the health of our family. And we're living outdoors. We're raising our kids outdoors on the land, in orchards, at the creeks, like nature is so important to us, and it's in our blood. There's nothing better, I think, for any of us than driving through an orchard, because it's so nostalgic. It's how we grew up. So we all, I think, couldn't really stand behind that. We want to take this product now, which we, in the past, it's just what we did. But now we understand that it could be a force for good. And so how are we going to do that? I mean, it starts at home. We're working on developing programs within our own organization to make healthy eating easier for our community members, and looking at developing education programs around that. We're reevaluating all of our product lines because, I think 30 years ago, people were excited about pineapple with added sugar, and now we look at that and we go, oh my God, why would we do that? So we are looking at all of our products and saying, okay, where can we have a great line called Simply Dried, and that's a no added sugar line, and it's prunes and apricots, pineapple, mango, peaches. And so that's kind of a beginning, right? It's like, okay, this is where we're going to start. And now let's look back at all the products we've ever made and how can we redevelop them so that they are totally in alignment with our vision. And then finally, how can we be a resource for busy people and families around the world? And so that's where I've been really involved in creating our website. And so not just as a place to purchase our products, but as a resource for, how do you make a healthy lunchbox? I mean, how can you do that quickly and easily in a way that your kid will actually want to eat it? Right. And how can we have take my nutrition background and create blog posts that are meaningful to parents and people trying to live a healthier lifestyle, because we understand we are those busy parents. We are those busy families who are trying to do it a little bit better all the time. And so we want to support people in that.
I love it. And you are doing a great job. And it's the vision comes full circle listening to you on this episode right now. So inspire healthy living. It's look no further than Natalie Mariani Kling herself, right? So this is this has been.
Well, I don't know. I hope I'm just the voice.
We're all a work in progress. We are all a work in progress. But my goodness, you have inspired me with your remarks. And I have to ask you. I mean, you talk about your product lineup. I mean, we're talking dozens, if not hundreds, of different products that your company has an active production right now. And so I have to ask, any favorites or any recipes that you'd like to call out? Unique ways that the Mariani family uses the Mariani products?
Yeah, I mean, that's so funny. I mean, yes, I I've been thinking about that because I'm personally not a big cook. But what I have found is that our product it's an everyday ingredient that can be added to so many things that we don't really think about. I mean, oatmeal is kind of obvious, but we have a probiotic apricot banana smoothie recipe on our website. That's awesome. You can put dried cranberries on a kale salad or in a quinoa dish. Dates and prunes are a sweetener substitute, and they're binders. So they're awesome. I would say my mom's most traditional, maybe one of our most well-known recipes within the family is actually this prune apricot stuffed pork, which is, I'm not like the biggest meat eater in the world, but those products can make something so moist and flavorful that I just kind of think of our products now as an elevator. They can elevate so many of the things we're just kind of eating every day.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. And they're easy to find, but I mean, I anecdotally before the show, I'm like, I buy them in the cereal aisle. I buy them in the produce department. Where can people go to find your products? It sounds like do you have direct to consumer sales on your website as well?
We do.
Okay.
We do. So definitely on our website, mariani.com, but also hopefully at your local grocery store. We've been fortunate to have, national distribution. So it's in most of the big chains and also in a lot of the smaller stores, but always online.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Family-owned business. It is, what a story. Oh my goodness. What a great episode this has been. Natalie, I have to thank you for being our guest today, and just thank you for continuing to live on this legacy that you so beautifully described at the top of the show with how your family business got started. But with that, you get the final thoughts, the closing remarks, and the goodbye to all of our listeners, and just gratitude from me to you. And this is not the last of our collaborations. We have too much aligned passion. We'll be in touch with you, Natalie. I am so glad our paths have crossed.
Oh, amen, Lori. I really believe in what you're doing. So thank you so much for having me on. And if I had any final closing comments, it's just that that keep the faith, everybody, and know that eating healthy is such a powerful, powerful tool that's in your back pocket. And I hope we can help you with that and be a part of that. But if you haven't gone there yet, just know that it's there for you and it's waiting, and it's something you can do every day to just live a little bit healthier.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.